Good evening all. For today's video we're looking at the racing version of the Austin-Healey 100, the first of the so-called Big Healeys, and originator of one of the most compelling-looking, relatively mass-produced vehicles of the era, in the opinion of this commentator. The original 100 was built as a proof of concept by Donald Healey, an erstwhile racer and rallyist who, at the time, was manufacturing very expensive, limited-run performance vehicles under his own eponymous brand. The 100 was instead designed to use off-the-shelf components from the Austin A90, which was selling poorly at the time, with the intent of filling a market segment in between the popular but relatively inexpensive MGs and the more expensive Jaguars, both of which were seeing strong sales in the US. Displayed at the 1952 London Motor Show, its design was so compelling that the managing director of Austin Motors essentially bought the design to produce under their own banner, giving rise to the Austin-Healey brand that would persist for several decades. With Healey's history in racing and prior experience building high-performance vehicles, a motorsports version of the 100, the choice of model designation was in fact a reference to the vehicle's top speed, was virtually inevitable, and indeed, what would be called the 100S arrived less than a year after main production began on the 100 in 1953. 5 works cars were originally built, and on their first outing at Sebring in 1954, the vehicle brought home a class victory and a surprising third overall, earning the motorsports-focused model its S designation. All of the Healey 100s were body-on-frame constructed, with a steel box frame and an added X-brace to improve rigidity, draped in steel body panels. Even in the 1950s, double wishbones were starting to make an appearance and featured on the front suspension of the 100 and 100S, although with coilover suspension rather than pushrods. The rear, however, remained a bit more rural, shall we say, with a live axle and leaf springs. Fitted with wire wheels, another personal favorite feature of vehicles from this era, tire choices were more open than in modern competition and could have been from any number of manufacturers, including Dunlop, Michelin, and Continental. The 100S differed from their tamer siblings through a number of modifications, most critically through several weight-saving initiatives that included the extensive use of aluminum for body panels and alloy for the cylinder head. An overdrive unit, standard on the road cars, also went the way of the Dodo, as did the bumpers and the convertible top, with the windshield changed out for a frameless plastic unit instead of glass. This diet took about 200 pounds, or 90 kilograms, off the vehicle's weight, bringing it to just shy of 1,900 pounds, or 850 kilos. The aluminum cylinder head also increased the compression ratio, which, when combined with new valves, carbs, conrods, camshaft, and crankshaft, souped the 2.6-liter straight-4 engine up to 132 horsepower, 40 more than the standard vehicle in its original version. The standard vehicle's Gearling drum brakes were replaced with cutting-edge discs from Dunlop, which also featured on Jaguar's contemporaneous D-Type and would figure in both vehicles' parts in the 1955 Le Mans disaster. A 100S driven by Lance Macklin served as the ramp that launched Pierre Leves's SLR into the crowd. Notwithstanding that ignominious outing, the 100S was a generally successful and well-liked little race car. In addition to the 5 units built for the Works team, which took home the top 2 trophies in the 1954 Mille Miglia, in addition to that first Sebring victory and numerous other class wins, 50 additional vehicles were built for sales to private race teams, and consequently, compiling a complete list of their national and international race entries and results would be a task bordering on the Sisyphean, and certainly several orders of magnitude larger than fitting for a 5-minute guide. While standard Austin-Healey 100s typically sell in the high 5-figure or low 6-figure range, unfortunately still well outside of my budget, the surviving 100Ss fetch prices well into the $500,000 ranges and have occasionally fetched north of $1 million. A number of the almost 15,000 Healey 100s have been converted to S specification, or similar, for use at track day events, historic races, or just for taking to car shows. For this week's call to action not featuring the 3 sacred words of YouTube,
like, comment, subscribe.
If you're watching this on the day of release, today is National Presidential Joke Day. One of the cornerstones of free societies is freedom of speech, as we all know, and being able to ridicule one's leaders to the point of absurdity is one of the most potent expressions of that freedom, whoever is in charge. So, wherever you are in the world, assuming it's not Burma or Thailand or now recently Niger or something, go ahead and riff on your president/prime minister/head of state. Even if you voted for them or generally agree with what they're doing in office, there's surely some gaffe worth exploiting for comedic purposes. Have a good evening, everyone.